Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thanks to Annie for Mobile Europe for inviting me to host this discussion. We have some great panelists on this next section. Just by way of introduction, Andy Linham in the earlier talk mentioned about the pace of development in AI and how in telecom it's just not a pace that we are familiar with at all. We tend to speak in generational change, things that take 10 years to spec out and define, and then maybe another 10 years to implement. In AI, it seems like things that were science fiction maybe 2-3 years ago are now just completely commonplace. But we got some great panelists on to talk about this topic today. First, they're from interesting places in the market, different places in the market, and don't always get that much airtime on public conferences, so it's great to see them here. Let me just introduce Jesús Villacorta to begin with. Jesús is at MasOrange, which is Spain's largest operator. It's over 40 million subscribers there. Jesús is a strategy director there. He has been working at MasOrange for over a decade, and prior to that, had a decade at Boston Consulting Group. So well qualified to talk about questions of strategy. Jesús, welcome this morning. Also on the line, Antonella, let's just check your mic as we go. Telecom Italia Sparkle. That's the international wholesale enterprise business for Telecom Italia. And Antonella Sanguineti, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Sanguineti, I apologize. Antonella is the head of marketing and product management for network, cloud security, and IT. She also has a long background in telecom in Italy. I'm sorry, in the telecom industry in Italy, including time with major vendors, including Cisco and Ericsson. So lots of input here, lots of context. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
One question I want to start with is something that Andy touched on. From our own research, we compiled some research just recently and asked operators about their kind of expectations for return on investment. One thing that was perhaps not so surprising, but it was surprising quite how overwhelming the response was that majority of operators wanted to see a return on investment in AI within 2 years. They expected to see a meaningful return within 2 years. That's quite different to what we've seen in the past. And I wanted to understand from your point of view this question of prioritization. Given that there's so much potential opportunity, Andy mentioned 900 ideas for using AI. Given that there's so much interest in using AI, how do you weigh up and manage the different possibilities for actually investing in AI? What's the priority schemes that you use for actually funding new projects? Jesús, maybe I could start with you, and I'll come to you afterwards on that question.
Okay, thanks for the question, Robert. That's in fact one of the basic ones that we ask ourselves when we need to make a business decision for Sparkle. Just to be aware that, as you mentioned, Sparkle is a global service provider. We have a wholesale and enterprise services globally, so we are a pretty structured company. And based on that, we have a very much product-oriented approach. So we have a very strict product management process. I'm heading, in fact, that. And we follow that when any kind of process or product or new features for the internal development has to be done. So this leads us to ask us some questions before investing. And when talking about AI, if we go out of the piloting phase, because of course, some years back, we start piloting use cases, but then, and we did a very nice things. In fact, our CIO department sent a survey to the whole company and asking for, what are the pain points that you have? And this is the starting point. The first question that in the product management process, we ask ourselves, do we have a real business problem or a real operational assurance problems that can be solved? That's the first question. And for instance, in our case, that led to this survey, and every department, including legals, including marketing, they all showed what were the pain points. Then the second question is, okay, do we have good data that we could use to solve that problem? Because we will maybe come back to this, but data is the foundation of AI, but they cannot be, raw data. They have to be authoritative data, trustable, reliable, structured. So that's the second question that we ask ourselves. And then the third major question is, can this AI product, for instance, or AI features being included in our streamline workflows? Because we need to remember that for a service provider like Sparkle, innovation is integration into our end-to-end systems. So it's just not a single innovation feature. It has to be integrated in the full flow that starts with quoting, ordering, delivering, assurance, and operational. So the decision is made if these three major questions are fulfilled. And then, of course, there is the outcome. There must be a tangible outcome for customers, for operations, for savings, revenues. I mean, something that is measurable. And we have reason like this with our development for AI features.
That's very interesting. A kind of a qualification process first, a basic sanity check, and then
yeah.
Look, I could practice. Jesús, good morning. Do you hear me well? The same approach, or take a slightly different approach to looking at where to spend on AI projects?
Yes, thank you, Robert. Can you hear me well? Yes. Well, in MasOrange, we take a rather pragmatic approach. We focus on four main areas where we believe most of the value is. One is the customer care interactions. Second one is network optimization and automation. Third is customer value management, and fourth is B2B business growth, which is pretty relevant for us. And then within those four main areas, we prioritize our efforts in use cases where we believe we can create tangible impact. We develop business cases, we estimate the ROI we're going to get, and then we filter down the cases where we believe, or what we call they are strategic use cases. To put some numbers on the table, as of today, we are pushing over 30 use cases that we call strategic. And those cases are expected to generate over 70 million euros per year net impact on P&L. And we put all our effort to make sure that those strategic use cases are executed. But there is also a balance to strike here, right? While we centralize the prioritization of those big cases, we also tried to drive decentralized innovation across the organization. This is what we call the bottom-up innovation. We are promoting a cultural shift where business profiles, even without coding skills, are using AI daily. Another figure, for instance, as of today, 85% of our employees use AI on a daily basis, and they can come up with smaller AI use cases on their own. So, in a way, we try to balance the two sides, right? This top-down priorities, we make sure that those big cases are executed while at the same time allowing bottom-up innovation.
It's an interesting mix, as you say, the centralized thing. Again, we heard from Andy at the start that the very nature of his organization is a group plus regional operations function. But it's the same for every telco, even working within a single country, because by nature there is a lot of regional activity, and seeing some of that, what I call kind of field in versus kind of central office out, is interesting. The amount of opportunity to innovate. Antonella, one of the big topics in our industry today, and I think it's particularly relevant in your case, is understanding how AI is changing the experience of customers themselves, changing their needs as well. And I'm sensing that's different for the kind of customers that you're dealing with, or at least maybe the signals are different than perhaps in a consumer world. If I think, just for context, I think about the way in which video in general has impacted the consumer market. That's been an enormously influential impact, completely changed how networks have been operating. What's your thought on how AI is changing how your customers make use of your services? Are you seeing a change in that?
Yes, we see a major shift. And to describe that, we need to describe who are our customers. So Sparkle has two kinds of customers: the wholesale operators, carriers like us, and then we have the enterprises, direct enterprise business. And among the enterprise business, and enterprise customers, there are also the new actors of the AI infrastructure, of the AI supply chain. And that's a very important factor. So if we consider, let's say like this, the carriers and also the new actors, I would say, they are asking for completely new networks because I mean, the architecture of AI is not asking for bandwidth anymore, but they are really asking for engineered networks, reliable networks, very flexible. And I'm not saying that the ones that we have today are not, but the level, the degree of trustfulness must be much higher. The degree of flexibility must be much higher. Just to make an example, because to make an example, the new actors like the neo clouds or even the application developers on top of the AI, they are somehow cloud native. So they really expect our network to behave in a cloud-like way. I am. Sorry, I had a notification here from the tool. So they really expect that they can play with the network in similar way as they play with the cloud. I have conversations with the CEO of startups in the AI that are asking for terabits of connectivity, in an on-demand mode. So what they're asking for is different and can be summarized in reliable engineering, sovereign networks, because we don't need to forget about the jurisdiction. Consider that a single chatbot, a single query on a chatbot on one part of the world, in order to be fulfilled, could potentially touch many continents and many domains of different providers. So we really needed to automate this. And this is what our service provider, our customers are asking for. And then there are enterprises. Enterprises, if I relate to what they ask for AI, there are two major things. First is, in most cases, they leverage on Sparkle competence to have the full package. They have an AI project and they would like a service provider to provide the full enablement of that. And this means multi-cloud functionality, multi-cloud connectivity, connectivity for inference, whether it is internet or if it is a private network, and they want security. So it looks nothing different than what we have today, but the how might be different, and the how in plus the NAS model. Why? Because the network cannot be static anymore. The moment you have data that go up and down, not only up and down, but also east to west, and they needed to fulfill requirements in terms of latency and in terms of observability, then you need the NAS model. So it's changing significantly from what they're asking for, not bandwidth anymore, but something more, engineered and flexible. And second, the how. I mean, more automation and more flexibility. We need to consider that nowadays with AI, the service provider are really within the reasoning path of the intelligence. So how we provide our services has completely different expectations than in the past.
Yeah, that's interesting. Jesús, again, a different kind of market, but how are your customers' expectations influencing your decisions about where to invest, what kind of projects to run?
Well, again, we come from the conviction that there are certain areas in our business where we can create a lot of value by making even small improvements. And we start with those. As I mentioned before, those are network, customer care interactions, customer base management, which for us is huge because we are the largest player in Spain. We have more customers than anybody else in this market. So customer base management is huge, and B2B growth. And again, we are working with those within those areas. We make sure that we have a number of use cases, strategic use cases being developed, and we do our best to get them done. Again, while allowing employees to come up with their own solutions. As I mentioned before, 85% of the employee base is using AI daily basis. They are coming up with their own solutions. They are, redefining their manual processes on their own to develop more efficient AI-driven workflows. So for us, it's super important to focus on the big areas and the big cases, and at the same time allowing bottom-up innovation. And then real examples of customer impact in network investments. This is super relevant. We are not only improving the payback of our network investments, but we're also improving the perception of the customers on the quality of the network. So customer perception improves a lot if you do the right investments at the right time. Another element that is having a very positive impact on customer expectations and perception is the analysis that we do on all the interactions that we have with our customers. As of today, we are transcribing every single interaction that we have with our customers in every single channel, all of them. Transcribe them, we store them, we analyze them, we run algorithms on them to estimate or to anticipate the customer sentiment, whether of our agents are doing the right job or they can do better. So this is for us a big area that is having a true impact on customer satisfaction.
So that's directly feeding back into your training of your staff and your interactions and processes.
Everything. Do we have a bug in the process because we have this many customers calling us for this reason? Are the human agents conveying the right messages? Interact with the customers, the customer sentiment, the probability of churning. I mean, it's we extract a lot of insights from this effort that comes from the base, comes from the data, right? It's we store and transcribe every single interaction that we have with our customers.
Is there an example of something that you've found out that you genuinely did not know before? I mean, again, we talk a lot about data and the use of data. A lot of what I hear as an analyst in talking with operators is often a confirmation or a quantification of something they already knew was happening, whether it's in a CX context or something. But I'm always interested to see, are there examples of situations where you've made use of AI and uncovered something that was not expected, something that was hidden in what you were doing? It might be a correlation between a device and a product, or it might be some other behavioral thing on the network. Have either of you got any examples of where AI has really shone a spotlight on something that was otherwise hidden?
Shall I answer this one?
Go ahead.
Look, I mean, there are many learnings when you have AI solutions in place. Some of them are very positive, like agents, voice bots taking care of conversations with customers and addressing the issues with very high rates of success. So this is positive. Some other learnings are perhaps on the other side. Some learnings that we got, one of them, for instance, is that AI solutions tend to overestimate the impact. You have this AI tool running, to uncover perhaps bills that you shouldn't be paying to providers or whatever that solution is, and they estimate, a big number, big figure. But then when you put those figures and those outcomes into the hands of the humans, they realize that not all of them are achievable in practice because the machine doesn't have the experience to calibrate for that. So this is one learning. And another learning that could be interesting is that in some occasions we have developed agentic AI solutions to address operational issues. And then once we had the tool in production, we realized that the token consumption was super high. And that we were actually creating a very high operational complexity, and we realized that we could address the very exact same issue with non-agentic AI solutions based on machine learning, traditional robots. So it's, not always the leading edge, sophisticated tool is the best one for a given purpose.
Antonella, so you nodding there. It sounds like that's
yes.
with your experience.
Yeah, if I can share a Sparkle experience, our first application of AI is called AISNA, AI Service Network Assurance, and we apply to preventive actions to anticipate the network faults, and in the end that leads to customer satisfaction because we can anticipate it. So you were asking previously, are there fields where AI effectively tells something that it was much more difficult to do by human being? And this is exactly an example, because this application monitors the network at a wide scale. You can imagine we have 600,000 kilometers of fiber, submarine and terrestrial, so it's a huge network. It takes qualified KPIs over different layers of the network, IP or optical. It compares with the context of a customer or a service, and then it allows us to proactively anticipate potential degradation or issues to the service. And this goes directly to the trouble ticketing system, so we can notify fix the problem or notify to the customer before they really can see the problem. And to give some numbers, we have counted something like 3,700 hours in fixing the network or debugging the networks to our NOC, and 30% reduction of the handling of issues by our operations center. So just an example of something that has been really valuable for our operational activities. If I can reply of something that would not expected, on the contrary, from the AI, we have a framework. We have developed a framework for operational aspects of our business. Taking care of everything from the billing to invoicing and things like this, based on agentic architecture. And for instance, so what we realized is that the security level of the communication of the agents, as well as the identity level, was not mature enough. If you take the TLS, even the 1.3, it is not 100% fitting. It was not designed, in fact, for agentic. TLS was not designed, was designed for the traditional internet and not for the agentic environment, so dynamic and so fast. So there we realized that there was a gap, and this is why we then developed our own patent to fix this gap. But definitely the security and the identity aspects of the agentic, as well as the governance aspects, because the moment that you run some business through agents, practically they become your employee. And they need governance, they need structure, hierarchy, roles, delegations, and these kind of aspects are, at least our experience showed, that they are not mature enough. And we are working on it, of course, through standardization, in particular in the Amplify standardization activities, as well as with the private initiatives that as Sparkle we are doing.
Yeah. Interesting. You're taking me in a few different directions there, all at the same time. One question I do want to ask about is some of that question about foundational strategic investment. Again, we heard something from the earlier speakers on this call, and indeed Andy sort of implied that for a while they'd been slower because they had pre-invested, even ahead of Gen AI arriving in a data platform, a data ocean, as he put it. But I'd like to get your sense of, again, from where you are now, what are the foundational pieces of making the incorporation of AI successful, and a sense of where you are. Antonella, I'm going to start with you because you finished in an interesting place, because you talk about governance. That's my question. What are the foundational parts, technical, financial, operational, that you think are essential to make valid use of AI at scale?
Yeah, I will repeat myself a little bit. It's not technical, because there are there is a huge amount of technical innovation in AI, even more than we can absorb as a service providers. So the foundation, the key foundation is data. I mean, no way. And data which cannot be raw data. They have to be, authoritative data, structured, trustable. And then, when you have these characteristics, the raw data really become knowledge. And then from knowledge, then you have the AI food. Huh? And with that respect, at Sparkle, we have been pretty visionary in the past years, because we have done, even before AI was into the picture, a very big work of cleaning data and structuring our big data architecture. Consider that we have 32 legal entities in Sparkle globally. So, reconciling all data was super important. And now we leverage that work, because now we have data that are trustable and can really be used by autonomous systems. And I can tell you, the closed loop of feedbacks for ensuring the cleanness of the data and the reliability of the data has been a long journey. So to me, data is the foundation. And then the second key aspect for us as a service provider is the integration. If you have data and the best model ever, but you cannot integrate the outcome or any task that this AI does into the full supply chain of a service provider delivery, then it's useless. Cannot be isolated innovation, and they have, isolated features. They have to be part of our streamlined activities, and then they become really beneficial.
Jesús, your view on the foundational elements here, would you agree with those?
Yes, I would definitely agree with the data foundation. This is super important. On the technical side, algorithms may become a commodity. The foundation is data. We have worked hard in MasOrange to put all our data into a single data warehouse on BigQuery with information from over 30 million subscribers, 4 petabytes of data, more than 70 integrated resources into the data warehouse, over 1,000 internal users. So this was a big effort that we completed, and it's allowing us to grow fast when it comes to developing use cases over this data. But then there are some other foundations, right? I would like to highlight organization and financials. And to address that, we have put in MasOrange a governance in place, because you cannot scale AI if every department is running experiments on their own in a isolated manner. We established a governance framework with part of my strategy team serving as an AI office or AI PMO, if you want to call it, to make sure that every initiative comes with a business case. We separate experiments from the true strategic cases with high impact expectation and high ROI, and we help driving momentum across the organization to make sure that we do our best to get those use cases done. And then I would also highlight another foundation, which is cultural, perhaps. You cannot be an AI-enabled telco if only your engineers use AI. You need to have all employees embracing and using AI, and this is why you want to give them AI tools to use, and this is why you also want to have them experimenting, employees even without coding skills, to develop AI solutions for their daily routines. For us, this is another foundation.
Interesting. I do want to remind the audience listening that we do have open Q&A as well. If you do have questions, please do contribute them in, and we'll get them asked in real time as best we can. Okay, just a short checkpoint. So one other area that I think is perhaps worth a discussion is the whole topic of metrics. As we consider moving from the kind of world we have today, where work processes that are well documented and replicated, to a world where perhaps we're going to ask AI to invent a process for which there is no metric. Just tell me a little bit about about some of the metrics that you're each using inside your organizations to quantify either the adoption or the successful outcome. I'll pause for a moment only to remind us all that I think we all see statistics on this regularly. 7 out of 10 IT projects fail, or high numbers. So we shouldn't expect that everything everyone is doing is 100% perfect. But one of the key ways to identify if something is working or not working, of course, is a metric that we're monitoring. So I'm not so worried about the numbers themselves, but it's the measure. What are the measures that you are using to say, yes, this project is succeeding in its use of AI. This project perhaps is not doing so well. Any thoughts on either of those? Jesús, I'll start with you on this one.
Sure. I mean, there are many metrics that you can look at, but for us, very clearly, the ultimate metric is impact on P&L. Because the operational costs of AI are high and immediate. Our primary metric is tangible financial return. We do not measure the success by the number of use cases that we launch. We measure based on the direct impact or the incremental margin that we generate, or the CapEx that we save, or the OpEx that we save. So that's what we ultimately look for, is direct impact on P&L. And one example of that is perhaps the predictive AI tool that we use to optimize our network investments that is already well implemented and in use. We use this tool to prioritize our investments in the network, to decide by how much we increase our capacity and when. And the result of that is that we have improved the payback of our investments by 40%, which is a lot. I mean, it's
okay.
And we are very happy with it. And this is a live example that, by the end of the day, the ultimate metric for us is financial impact.
Yeah. Just to follow that one through for just a moment, the network investment impact, is that at the sort of fiber and broadband and homes passed level, or is that in terms of backbone capacity, or both of those? What's the focus of that?
We started using it on the radio access network, and now we are putting this tool in production across all the elements of our network. But we started initially with radio access. In the way that you set up the tool, just to give a couple of highlights, you want to optimize the customer perception, the customer experience, because customer experience is related to churn. Churn rate is related to the revenues that you get, and the revenues that you get are related to the margin. So by the end of the day, you optimize the margin that you get, or the return you get out of your investments. But you have gone through several metrics to get into the ultimate impact, which is again impact on P&L.
Yeah. Antonella, again, metrics. What metrics are meaningful for you?
Yeah, we are in the same direction. We define the KPIs when we define the product introduction and the decision go no go. And typically there we decide what are the expectations and are always in terms of savings, in particular, the one that we have developed so far about the proactive assurance and operational is mainly about saving or return on investment. So I confirm what Jesús was saying, whether it is a saving on hours spent or reduction of trouble tickets, in the end, it's on that logic. But the second, we mentioned previously, the second aspect to fulfill, the expectations of an AI project is again when it gets out of the pilot phase and it is fully integrated. We mentioned previously about the governance, and the moment one process is really part of the governance, of the overall governance, then it's a success, because then it fulfills the KPI that we expect it to be numerical ones, number of hours saved, or better customer feedbacks and so on. But also it is fully integrated in our overall systems.
Are you both using, agentic AI in particular areas, as distinct from automation? So the kind of AI that is genuinely able to make a decision and act on that decision. Are there examples of where you have that in use? The reason I'm asking is because, again, in the context of milestones and moonshots, from our research, we've found that the use of truly agentic AI in that fashion is quite limited. That's okay. It's quite limited. And so the dreams of the idea of fully autonomous, self-managing networks, while people understand it, it's perhaps a little further away than perhaps many people would like. Agentic AI is clearly a key part of that from a network point of view. So I'm just keen to get a sense of where you're using that capability, which is an actual agent that is able to reason and make decisions and drive dynamic processes that perhaps involve other agents. Are there examples of where you're doing that today, either in a network context or a customer experience, customer service context?
Yeah, okay, I can start. So yes, we are using agentic AI. We have a framework, and I go back to the fact that when it gets out of the pilot, becomes a real project, then it becomes a framework touching different points of our organization. It is called SOFIA, which is a smart orchestration for intelligence automation, and it is agentic based, and it touches different tasks of the organization: invoice, billing, for instance, for mobile operators, quotes, and so on. So we are using it for our internal operations, and we say, I cannot give numbers, but we say significant benefits. If I apply on the other hand, to the whole networking, not our internal operations, we are not using yet, but definitely, piloting it. Agents for the end-to-end quoting and ordering process with our partner wholesale operators. In particular, at Amplify, in fact, we are driving one of the working groups that refers to the architecture and to the activities that the service provider needed to trigger and their respective agents needed to trigger in order to complete the quoting and order system. So the life cycle done not only by machines, but now done by agents. And through this, and I'm saying is not there yet, because in order to realize this, we need, of course, to a common protocol. We need to translate the standardized APIs into the MCP, layer. And mainly we need to fix not to fix, but to agree on the security and the trustability and the governance of these agents. So the answer is twofold. We are already using in a very structured way in our framework, SOFIA, for operational aspects. And we are aiming to use them for the interconnections with our partners once, the framework is complete, touching, reliability, trustability, and of course the protocols that are the easiest part, because the payloads are already defined and the APIs are already defined, just need to be translated at the agentic level. But it works, and it is very beneficial, because of course the agent can bring the context in even in the quoting or ordering decisions. So the solution is much faster, not only, but is much more tailored to that specific request.
Yeah, and there's a real payback in terms of that business agility and business process.
Absolutely.
Is this again your use of agents and agentic AI? How far does that span your organization?
Yes, we are using agentic AI in many domains, but I can use perhaps one example we are very proud of. We have been the first telco in Europe to commercially deploy a large-scale level 4 autonomous IP network, which we initially rolled out in some regions of Spain, like Valencia or Alicante, but it's now been rolled out across the entire country. And to be precise, this means that the IP network is now capable of self-healing and smart routing, with AI agents calculating optimal paths for data packets and reconfiguring routers autonomously. So this is perhaps it's a real life and pretty significant examples that is bringing tangible advantages for our customers. The network detects and corrects issues before the customer even notice, which is great. The network or the agents adjust parameters like latency, speed, capacity in real time. And this prevents lag in video calls or gaming, even in highly crowded areas. And also it automatically adapts connectivity needs based on users' location, whether this is at home or on the move. So this is already working in place again for a particular piece of our network, which is the IP network. But we are very proud of this example, and it's agentic.
That I know your CTO has been very open about his aspirations, your aspirations to get to level 4 autonomy. Is that what's framing your plans and your thinking to be on a timetable to get there quickly, to be not just the first for IP, but perhaps for other areas? How does that frame your AI strategy?
Well, again, just to be clear, it's not an aspiration. It's a reality, right? At least for a part of our network, which may seem small, but it's where we started, and we plan to extend it to other elements of the network, radio access network optimization. We are working on it. It's not in place. This is why you see it on the news, but we're also working on agents to optimize radio access network on their own. So we truly believe that this is a way to optimize costs, but also to provide a better service by the end of the day, because the machine is working 24/7. And in some cases, they make less mistakes than humans when it comes to complex routine tasks. So this is why it makes a lot of sense to come up with these kind of solutions in network environments.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you for the correction. It's not an aspiration. You're already doing it. That's very fair. Antonella, in the context of network as a service, which is part of your business, not all of your business, I understand. Is this? I mean, you mentioned Amplify a couple of times as well. Are we getting closer to the kind of fully automated, fully autonomous interaction between carriers, or are we still really working largely at the order automation level? What's been changing in the last couple of years in relation to AI in terms of accelerating that process of real operator to operator interaction?
Yeah, let me say that I think we passed the first stage that you mentioned, the one of quoting, ordering, and sort of delivering, and we are going to the next phase that has much accelerated, where now we try really to remove all the obstacles for fully automated transactions. Just to make an example, the interconnection at the exchange point implies, the law, the letter of authorization, this kind of stuff. So we have been working to make them automated. And for instance, this is just one example. This I'm not talking about when I say we, Sparkle together with the Amplify organization. So we have tried to standardize. We are standardizing for instance, the digital LOA, so that we even remove these impediments that can obstacle the full end-to-end interoperable automated activities. The other part that we have been working with let me say, in this second phase is, for instance, the frictionless agreement of the SLAs. It looks trivial, but when you have an end-to-end circuit that implies the connectivity of different vendors, different domains, different jurisdictions, even the SLA management and the SLA verification process has to be automated. And it's not about just counting how many seconds you have been out or in. It's just making this in a trustable way and a non-repudiable way. And this is where, for instance, the smart contracts come into the picture, maybe the adoption of the blockchain. And this we have been working on the framework for this, because there are many hidden things that have to be solved to make really the fully automated networks. But we have done amazing progresses. I mean, what I'm talking about, the LOA, the smart contracts for the frictionless SLA agreement, are there, are in the framework. So it's just can be developed. And we are working on it, and we are working also on the concept of federated networks. So because trust is the last point that is one of the pillars that for this full NAS to happen, the moment, whether it is an agent or it is a service provider system, the moment that you trigger actions on my network, there must be a common layer of trust. And this is where we also have been working with, the concept of federated actors, federated service providers, and the federated elements of the supply chain that agree on a common trust layer. So they have a verifiable credentials, they have a mechanism to verify the roles, the identity and the roles that they have in this business transaction. And then based on that, they can discover the services that are available and they trigger on that. So I cannot say that now the dream is already there, but we are very close because we have been accelerating a lot in the last couple of years at least.
It's interesting. Yeah, so progress there. Obviously, Amplify has been around for a long time in various incarnations, but there's still work to do, but still progress there. I'm conscious of our timing. We're getting towards the end of things. I did want to ask you both again. There are many operators at many different points in the journey towards adopting AI, making use of AI. You've both had some experiences already in taking that journey. What would be the key piece of advice that you would provide to someone who was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years behind you, maybe in another part of the world, not perhaps in Europe, but in another jurisdiction, as it were? Do you think that people should invest early, or pause their investment and get some things sorted out first, or what would you tell them? Is the right kind of sequence to progress with here in terms of realizing the potential of AI and making actual progress? Jesús, maybe you have some key pieces of advice for other telcos.
Sure. My very first piece of advice would be: do not overthink it, do not overcomplicate it, just get things going. I mean, you could spend months analyzing options, doing business cases, trying to come up with the optimal path and so on. But there are very few clear projects and opportunities that can create substantial return. Go for them. I mean, you need to start generating tangible value quickly to build momentum within the organization, achieve scale managing AI use cases, and also gain organizational maturity working with AI. So the sooner you start, the better. Don't overcomplicate things. The few opportunities which are very apparent, and if I may suggest 2 of them based on our experience, I would advise to focus on customer care operations, and not necessarily on substituting humans for agents, but assisting humans with Copilot solutions, and also using AI tools for real-time transcription, as we discussed before. I mean, that give us a lot of insights and helps you a lot reducing the duration of the calls. So this is an area for opportunity, a very clear one. And then again, network investments, using AI to optimize your capital investments. It's very clear. It gives you better returns and it gives you a better user experience.
Antonella, what would be your
I very much echo what Jesús was saying. I would think small, but start now, start immediately and fail. So I would suggest to start now and fail rather than waiting for things to be perfect. And also to bring the whole organization in. Cannot be a research cannot be a research program. It has to be bought by the full organization, because only by that you can really leverage the potential, and again, it goes into the normal flow of things, and then you see benefits.
Just to close the loop on our mission today, just looking at milestones and moonshots. As you look into the future, given what you've seen has been achieved already in the last 2-3 years, maybe longer, what would you regard as today's moonshot from an operational point of view in your own organizations? What would be the absolute ultimate destination for the use of AI? What would your organization look like if all of the value of AI is achieved? Antonella, maybe I'll ask you.
To me, it's mainly the realization of the NAS fabric. So the network stop being just a media, but really to be an intelligent, dynamic, flexible, autonomous portion of this AI supply chain, which we are already in part, but we need to bring this thread to the maximum exposure.
Mm-hmm. And frictionless, I'm guessing. You used that term earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Trustable and frictionless.
Jesús, what does the mission on the moon look like?
Well, look, I mean, if you read many papers out there, it seems like the moonshot or the ultimate ambition for the industry is that full identification, 100% identification, for network operation and even customer operation. So that seems to be like the holy grail, right? But to be honest, our view is a bit different. Here in MasOrange, we do not believe that full automation is the ideal endgame for everything. For us, the true moonshot is not replacing the human touch, is creating a balanced ecosystem between AI solutions handling the routine, across the entire operation, network and beyond, but also humans handling the relationship with customers and the most valuable interaction. So we truly believe that the optimal end game or the right end game is a combination of both.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the optimal possible combination of both, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's I know we were short.
I think that was terrific. Thank you very much, Antonella, Jesús, and Robert. That was, I thought, a really interesting panel, and especially looking back to Andy from Vodafone, who started proceedings off today. 3 different operators, quite a spectrum, sorry about that, of views, and I think very, very interesting. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, and we look forward to having you back sooner rather than later.